I think it's easier by human nature for us to focus on the negatives, to focus on the problems and get kind of caught up in that cycle of focus on negatives and focusing on problems and trying to assign blame to everyone else but ourselves. It's easier to do, and frankly, for a lot of people, as a race of people as a whole, the human race, it seems to be what we gravitate towards. It's what we draw more enjoyment out of. And far too often, especially here in stupid America, there's not nearly enough focus on holding thine own self accountable and identifying the problems and coming up with real tangible solutions that can produce the effective necessary changes that are needed to rectify the problems. It's just far too often. This side gets caught up in this bullshit. This side gets caught up on that bullshit. This side assigns blame here. This side assigns blame there. And all the while, it just becomes a never ending cycle of negativity and focusing on the problems. And guess what happens? Absolutely nothing. And I see this in particular in play when it comes to the issue of gun control versus gun rights. Both sides deserve all types of blame for getting caught up into the media BS, the sensationalism of the issue. Both sides deserve blame for this crap, for allowing it to occur. And it is time that this stops in stupid America, and it's time that we come to our senses and find some common sense middle ground to really affect some positive, necessary change on this all too important issue. And I've got some proposals and some solutions that I think are common sense. Some of you may like them, some of you may not. I don't care. But they're my proposals and they're my solutions, and there are things that I think are something that if you eliminate your bias here, you eliminate your bias there, you can agree that there's a purpose for that, or there's a good reason for that, or this is something that could affect some real positive change. I think when it comes to the issue of gun control versus gun rights, we have to start at the Second Amendment. It is time to amend the Second Amendment. And I'm dead serious about this because we have to understand the historical perspective and context of the Second Amendment. This was something that was written in the 1780s on the heels of the Revolutionary War. Yes, it was part of the original Bill of Rights of the Constitution at a time where the founding fathers were trying to prevent this new country, this new government from becoming a tyrannical state like the one that they revolted against and broke away from, the British Empire, England, if you will. But this was also a time of single shot muskets. This is also a time where militias, were necessary because there wasn't a huge national standing army. You had to have your citizens armed with a rifle maybe or a single shot musket because they had to prevent themselves from the Indians. They were living out in the frontier, in the wilderness, if you will, so they had to have it for survival. You needed to have militias that were ready to be mobilized at a moment's notice because, again, you didn't have a large national standing army at the time, something that clearly does not apply in today's America. What I think needs to happen is we need to state a fundamental right to have firearms and protect oneself while not allowing everything. The Second Amendment is dated. It is too vague. It is not nearly specific enough, and it leaves enough avenues for one side or the other to be able to creatively spin things in their favor to say it means this or it means that. We need to confront that head on and we need to address it. And here is my proposal for what I would make the 28th Amendment or maybe the 29th Amendment after legalizing marijuana on a federal level. This would be the amendment that I would propose to solve the problem of the Second Amendment. And I quote, "The right to bear and keep arms that have been deemed appropriate for the purposes of defending one's life, liberty, and property shall not be infringed. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation," unquote. What that means is you still have a fundamental right to bear and keep arms for the purposes of protecting oneself, your life, liberties, property, and that right shall not be infringed. And Congress has the power to enforce that via appropriate legislation. But that also does not give carte blanche to sit there and say, that means I can have bazookas and RPGs and fully automatic weapons and semi automatic assault rifles and all of this and all of that. Things that are actually clearly defined via appropriate legislation as being understood weapons that have been determined previously in constitutional debate matters when it comes to the Second Amendment by the Supreme Court, that things like handguns and shotguns and certain other weapons are understood to be weapons used for the purposes of self-defense and protecting one's life, liberty, and property. That's what the Second Amendment should be changed to, in my opinion. That's how it should be amended. It should be modernized. It should be updated and eliminate a lot of that vagueness and become much more specific. So that way, the people that want to have guns have the ability to still have guns. The people that want to make sure that, the wrong type of guns aren't out there have that ability as well. Something I think that everybody wins with. I think another thing that we need to do is we need to make this less of a political issue and make this less of an issue that certain sides can capitalize on for their own selfish gains. And I'm talking about, the gun control lobbies and advocates, and in particular the gun activists, gun rights lobbies, most notably the devil of it all, the NRA, the National Rifle Association. To me, it is astounding and ridiculous that we have these tax exempt organizations, and the NRA is by no means the only one, that are supposed to be nonprofit, almost charitable organizations that are created to benefit the common good, that instead have turned into self-serving lobbying groups and political action committees, both directly and or indirectly. It is time to rein this crap in with these nonprofits all across the board. And in this particular issue, in this particular case, most especially the NRA, it is time to enforce these 501 laws on the NRA. You would force the NRA to follow the laws on lobbying, get them out of being political players in that sense, manipulating the system and using their big power and influence to protect themselves and exert their power and influence. You would force the NRA to adhere to political activity laws, getting them out of the game of opposing or supporting certain candidates, contributing to certain campaigns or not, either directly or indirectly. That's a dangerous thing that a big corporation, as I call them now, the NRA, you ever seen the offices in Fairfax, Virginia? It sure looks like a big corporation to me. You get them out of that business. You force the NRA to serve the public interest, not the private ones. If they're designed to promote gun safety and gun training and gun education and protect your Second Amendment rights, then that's what they should be doing. They should not be sitting there and serving the interest of gun sellers and gun manufacturers and their own interest. They should be serving the common good, not a private one. And you're forcing the NRA to act as a nonprofit charity should. If you get them out of the lobbying game, if you get them out of the political action game, and you force them to do what they are supposed to do as a nonprofit charitable organization, I think all sides win on this. There's some other things I support too. I support the institution of a national instant background check. How ridiculous is it when you go to apply for a credit card, or you go to apply for a house, loan, or mortgage loan, or a car loan, that somebody could pull your credit file just like that. But we can't have an instantaneous national background check when it comes to freaking gun purchases. Are you going to kill somebody by dropping a house on them? No. Could you kill somebody maybe with a car? Yeah. So we sit there, could you kill somebody with a credit card? Probably not. No, unless you got really creative with slicing their throat or something, sharpening it up to a certain edge. So all of these things, people can instantaneously get your history. But when it comes to something that could be a weapon used to kill people, so many people oppose a national background check system. How ridiculous is this? How stupid is this? How stupid is it that when I go to apply for a job, they can pull my credit, they can require a drug screen, they can look at my background, but if I went to buy a fucking gun, none of that would apply. I am only asking that the gun business be held to the same standards that all these other things do, especially with the negative consequences that could come from not having it. This is also protecting, I think, those that lawfully and legally want to possess and have guns by sitting there and making sure that people that shouldn't have guns don't have guns, to create the continuing cycle of crappy problems that we have. I think we need to have the institution of national gun safety training being mandatory. When you go to get your driver's license, you have to have a certain number of hours driven in order to be able to get a permit or to be able to get a license. Why can't it be the same freaking thing when it comes to a gun? Why can't we have gun licenses? Why can't we have instant background checks? Why can't we have mandatory safety and training programs that you must go through before you can actually legally possess and purchase a weapon? What is so wrong with that? I don't get what's so wrong with that. Again, I would think this would be something that the people that for peaceful purposes want to have guns to be able to protect their life, liberty, and property would be all for. Making sure that they are rewarded for doing good things the right way, and making sure that the people that won't do things the right way or trying to skirt the system aren't able to do so. Having guns in the hands of people that should have guns, taking guns out of the hands of people that shouldn't have guns. I would think that'd be a good thing. I also support the institution of a 10% public safety gun sales tax. I know, oh, look at you raising taxes, Well, you know what? Tough shit. I'm doing this for a specific purpose and reason. I'm going to use that 10% tax. If you spend $1,000 on a gun, it's a $100 tax. That goes to a fund that is used for, what my opinion would be the greater good, to increase police protection, to sit there and make sure that we have armed security at every single school across the country. Sit there and take some of that money and use it and funnel it into a program called a National Guns for Cash program, something where you say, we will pay you this amount of money for every gun that you bring in, no questions asked. This is your chance to get rid of them. This is your chance to be adherent to the law, and we will pay you for it. Some people might not like that idea, but too bad. I don't like what we're currently doing, so we need some type of alternatives that could produce some real tangible change. Would some of these things alone fix the problem? No. But would an instant background check where people don't have to wait 5 or 7 days, they could get an answer right away, and they could buy their gun right away legally, would that be a bad thing? I don't think so. Would sitting there and having mandatory national gun safety training and education be a bad thing? I don't see how that could be. Making sure that people that have weapons understand how to use weapons. I don't think, again, there's anything wrong with that. And again, it's making sure that people that are capable and qualified, in my opinion, of having guns actually have guns, and those that shouldn't have them don't have them. Instituting a public safety gun sale tax. Again, getting more police officers on the street. Again, taking some of that money that maybe would come from legalizing marijuana and funneling that into a system as well that fights against illegal gun possession and illegal gun use more strongly and ardently and fervently than what is actually happening. Getting into the communities, getting a National Guns for Cash program going, so where people that do have illegal guns can sit there and turn them in with no questions asked, because eventually you could create a national gun registry. How ridiculous is it that you have to sit there and register your vehicle every year, but you don't have to register your damn gun on a national level, to the best of my knowledge? What is wrong with having a national gun registry database? What is wrong with that? Again, I would think, if anything, that is protecting the rights of gun owners, people that should legally be owning guns, by saying you're abiding by the laws, we're going to leave you alone. This helps us combat those individuals that shouldn't have them and don't have the legal right to carry them. I would also support, as a bit of a compromise, the institution of a national open carry handgun law in public places. And the reason I say open carry as opposed to concealed carry is I don't like the concept of concealed carry, because you don't know who has what. It's like you're hiding something. To me, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it as an open carry. Now, if a private business, chooses to not allow guns in there, it's just like the workplace. A lot of workplaces don't allow knives. They don't allow guns. That's just the way it is. You don't like it, tough tits. But why shouldn't I be able to know if somebody is carrying a gun or not? Now, if somebody feels that they need to carry a gun on their hip pocket to make themselves feel safe, to make themselves feel protected, to protect their life, liberty, and or property, then so be it. But at least I know who's carrying, and at least I know who isn't. I think this whole notion of a concealed carry is ridiculous and defeats the entire point. This whole argument of, well, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Well, how in the hell does a bad guy know if the good guy has a gun or not if it's hidden away inside of his shirt or his pants or in his coat or something? No, it should be out there. If people are going to be allowed to carry it, then let everybody know who's carrying what. I'm not in love with the idea, but if I'm going to sit there and have any type of carry law, I'd rather know what I'm dealing with than not know what I'm dealing with and have that fear of worry and wonder of what could be happening or what whack job or what fuckhole could have something or doesn't. At least this way I know for the most part. You can carry it, but it's got to be open and it's got to be in places that allow it. And if a private business doesn't allow it, then that's just too damn bad. Stop with all these stupid-ass protests of taking assault weapons into freaking Chipotles and shit. You look ridiculous and you look stupid. And all the while, all you're doing is really hindering your case because you look even more extreme. Here, open carry for a handgun. If you can't protect yourself with a handgun in public, And there's probably a bigger issue anyways. Do you need to carry around a shotgun, a rifle, or an AK-47 to be able to protect yourself in public? I really doubt it. I also support the institution of mandatory federal prison time for all unlawful possession, of firearms, talking about 5 to 10 years. In order to affect some of these other changes, you have to create an environment where you are discouraging illegally having firearms. So if somebody got caught for a speeding ticket and had a weapon that wasn't registered and they couldn't prove they had the legal right to own, then yes, they do deserve a mandatory 5 to 10 years in prison, in my opinion. Because what would that do? That would deter somebody very seriously, I would think, in a lot of cases, from owning guns illegally. Now, sure, you're going to have those individuals that do that, but at the same point in time, if you bust them for doing something else and they do this, then you're just throwing more prison time on there and you maybe are keeping the streets safer. By raising, creating a 10% public safety gun sale tax, you're allowing for more police officers, you're allowing for armed protection and security at every single school, elementary, middle, and high school and college in the entire country, which I think is something that I'm okay with, something that I feel is necessary. Our most important assets are our kids, and as a result, why would you not do everything you can to protect them? I think it is stupid and ridiculous that we have freaking banks that you go to and they have armed security guards. You go to certain employers, certain businesses, they have armed security guards, but at our fucking schools, teachers are unarmed, or at least in this case, I would say professionally trained security is unarmed. How stupid is this? Why can't we have 1 or 2 police officers in every school across the country? We could send 150 plus thousand troops to fight shitty, stupid wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but we can't protect our own students here. Again, where's the common sense at? If you fix and amend the Second Amendment and update it and modernize it and eliminate a lot of the vagueness, if you rein in the NRA and other so-called nonprofit charitable organizations and force them to actually act the way they're supposed to and be nonprofit charitable organizations, you institute national background checks, national gun safety training and education, institute a public gun sales tax that could be used to fund other good positive things like a Guns for Cash program, a national gun registry, more police officers on the streets to be able to pursue illegal guns, armed security in every school across the country, a national open carry handgun law. So that way the bad guys won't shoot the good guys with the guns. At least we know who the guys are that have the guns. All of these things, and also ratcheting up the enforcement of the penalties for carrying firearms illegally. It is time. If you are busted with it, you understand there are serious, dire consequences. I don't care who you are. 5 to 10 years for each offense of unlawful possession of a firearm at the federal level. Period, point blank. No plea bargains, no nothing. It is what it is. That is, these are the only ways, in my opinion, that we are going to affect any positive, real change on the gun issue here in stupid America. But sadly, I expect most, if not none of these changes to ever really occur in my lifetime. And it'll just be the same cycle of crap and nothing will ever happen and things will frankly just get worse.